When is it not a huge day in Blue Jays land? A lot to talk about. Of course, Alejandro Kirk signing the new contract, the 2025 roster. There were some surprises. Fantasy, holy moly, it is all wrapping up to a great 2025 year.
You are Locked On Blue Jays, your daily Toronto Blue Jays podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jays. Thank you for making Locked On Blue Jays your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Welcome back, everybody. As always, I'm Braden Iwasco. He's Carter First. Make sure you guys, I know I don't really push this a lot or stress this enough. Go follow us on Twitter. Braden5 Iwasco, Carter First 2. I'm back in it. I'm locked in with games coming soon. I've been tweeting like crazy. So make sure you guys go there. News updates, everything quickly, immediately will be on our Twitters. Go check that out as well. You can follow us on Instagram and TikTok, or Instagram and TikTok at Locked On Blue Jays, and then hit the subscribe button here on YouTube. It'll notify you guys when we go live, when we have podcasts, shorts, the whole ordeal, reels, whatever they are, videos. Make sure you guys do hit that subscribe button. Even if you are listening somewhere else, go over to the YouTube page, drop the subscribe button. Honestly, the more places you guys follow us, the better. It helps us out. And you guys get your information in many different ways. We had a lot coming for you guys in this 2025 season. Dallin Wilton, Skylar Peters will be back throughout the year. They do amazing work. They follow this team greatly, and they're good other voices to have. So hopefully you guys enjoyed those episodes. We will get to the fantasy of it all, as we had our Locked On Blue Jays fantasy draft earlier on Sunday night, I believe. I guess it was. So we're going to break down sort of where did the Blue Jays end up. We have a live stream coming on Thursday, opening day, first pitch. Carter will be live for the first little bit. I'm going to be jumping in here and there. I have to work till about 4. So I'll sort of jump in when I can. And then I'll join him on the live stream when I get back here. And we will watch the game together. Just be happy that the season is back. So a lot to do. Today, lots to get into. Alejandro Kirk, him signing his new deal, the 2025 roster has been released. Carter, a lot to get into. Do you think we start with the Alejandro Kirk stuff? I feel like that's sort of where I want to go, because it is a little bit of a strange one, at least right now, right?
This is how you can tell that the season is getting underway. We have the final rosters coming out. We have surprises in the bullpen. We have signings. We have so much information to digest and talk about, which is great, obviously, because the MLB is coming back. We get Major League Baseball back on Thursday. And we get a signing that not a lot of people were expecting. The main storylines of these offseason, if we're talking about contracts, it's Bichette, it's Vladimir Guerrero Jr. We talked about this in an episode before, is that when you have other guys coming off of contracts as well, maybe you want to get ahead of it and sign these guys ahead of time. And that's exactly what they do with Alejandro Kirk. And this is breaking news from Robert Murray. Alejandro Kirk and the Toronto Blue Jays are in agreement on a 5-year, $58 million contract extension. The structure, which includes a signing bonus and no club options, allows him to enter free agency after his age 31 season, locking up one of the best defensive catchers over the last 3 seasons. We're going to have to see how that bat transpires. Well, again, a lot of people are predicting a breakout season from Alejandro Kirk. They're predicting above average numbers than what we have seen previously, more so on par with what we saw in 2022. So if you get that form of Alejandro Kirk, even if you don't, honestly, and you still have that premium defense, paying this guy just over $11 million per season is not a bad contract whatsoever, in my opinion.
No, I think this is a absolutely great move. You're right. Getting ahead of the in the final year of the contract. You have so much in contract worries after this season. It's like, do you want to add another player to that for the following season? No, you can get Alejandro Kirk's deal done, preferably before. I think what this shows is that they expect good things from Alejandro Kirk. And so do I. He was one of my picks for bounce back player of the year. And for good reason. He looks amazing in spring training. Again, it's only spring training, whatever. But when Alejandro Kirk is the main catcher for this team, he does exceptionally better than when he was splitting time with Danny Jansen. So at the end of the day, if you can get Alejandro Kirk at this price right now, I love this deal. you're going to have to, like we talk about, build around some of these guys as you move forward. And the other thing is, which we will talk about as well, getting into the fantasy aspect of it all a little bit too, this sort of applies, is there aren't that many great catchers right now. It's really picking and choosing who you want. And Alejandro Kirk, right now, there's no one that you're going to go out and be able to get that's going to be better than Alejandro Kirk. So overall, the amount of money, the length of the deal, everything, getting the deal done early, all of this, all around, is a great, great move. I absolutely love this. And again, we give Ross Atkins, Mark Shapiro, all these guys their props when they do good things. This was a good thing. Does it take away from the bad things that they've done? No. But at the end of the day, when you look at this in a vacuum, this is a great decision, great move, and good for the Toronto Blue Jays moving forward.
And Alejandro Kirk is going to be an integral piece to the Toronto Blue Jays, especially if he does break out, because we know that Alejandro Kirk is a great defender. I believe it's the 97th percentile in caught stealing above average, 93rd in framing. This guy is an elite defender. That is obvious. If you get that breakout offensively, this guy can be one of the best catchers in all of baseball. And you also have this lack of just catching depth, catching prospects in the system now. We had Gabriel Moreno, Danny Jansen, Alejandro Kirk. At some point, there was a surplus of these guys. There's too many cooks in the kitchen. One of these guys had to be moved. You had one of them be moved via trade, and then one of them left another trade as well. The last trade deadline was gone as well. Signs with the Tampa Bay Rays this offseason. That's in Danny Jansen. Now you have Alejandro Kirk. And if it's not Alejandro Kirk, it's Tyler Heineman, it's Christian Bethancourt, it's Philip Clark. You don't really have a lot of reliable options behind Alejandro Kirk. So it's definitely nice to lock a guy up. We've seen how these negotiations have gone with the Bichette's, with Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Obviously, Alejandro Kirk isn't on those levels, but you get ahead of the contract extension. You don't have to go through this headache of, oh, do we have to worry about Alejandro Kirk leaving, going to a competitor in the offseason? You get ahead of it. You get ahead of a guy that, again, coming off of a year that you expect more from Alejandro Kirk, you get that year from this year. You get better offensive seasons coming up from Alejandro Kirk. This contract can look very good, especially with the way contracts have been trending recently in the MLB.
Yeah, and you're right. You brought up the lack of depth in the catcher position for the Toronto Blue Jays. You're right. No prospects. Absolutely. I mean, if Alejandro Kirk gets injured, knock on wood, if he gets injured, they are in a massive, massive hole. Alejandro Kirk, what he brings to this team, you said it, defensively, but I think we're going to see the offense of him break out this season as well. I think if he gets an injury this year, that's going to be one big question mark. And you could say that for a lot of teams in the MLB, that if they lose their primary catcher, it's going to be tough sledding. That is exactly what's going to happen with this Toronto Blue Jays team. So you don't want to overplay Alejandro Kirk. How many games do you realistically see him playing? Like, is it? I'm thinking it's got to be somewhere between the 105 and 115 mark, probably for Alejandro Kirk. Maybe you play him at the 110 and have him DH here and there. That's also a possibility, or 100 mark, sorry. But I think for him behind the dish, with the faith that you're putting in him, I think you need to play him 105 to 115 games.
Yeah, last year he did play 103 games, going back to 2023, 123 games. 2022 was DHing a ton, so he played 139 games. That skews the numbers a little bit. I think if you can get between 105 to 115, if you get to 120, that's absolutely amazing. That's 3/4 of the games. Somewhere in that happy medium. Again, you just want Alejandro Kirk to be healthy, because if it's not Alejandro Kirk, honestly, what they're going to have to do is they might have to get Daulton Varsho to strap him back up and dish him up behind the plate. And then who's your center fielder? Maybe Alan Rodin's still playing for your team. Obviously, him making the team, as we'll get into in the second segment. You have, I think, more options as viable center fielders as opposed to catchers. But we know how good Daulton Varsho is in center field. So do you want to throw him back behind the plate? That's going to be a narrative that a lot of people, I think, are going to talk about as the season progresses, when I don't expect a whole lot from Tyler Heineman. Christian Bethancourt can't make the team over Tyler Heineman. I can't imagine that's going to be a great resource for them down the road. Maybe Daulton Varsho is going to be the most viable catching option. Obviously, you don't really want to do that most of the time, but I think that's going to be an interesting story that is going to pick up down the line. But with Alejandro Kirk, it's such an integral season for him for so many different reasons. The contract now kind of out of the way, so at least you have him locked up. But we've always talked about how somebody in the middle of the order, whether it's a younger guy, whether it's an established guy that's maybe coming off a down year needs to step up and needs to produce some sort of offense in the middle of this order, Alejandro Kirk is going to be getting a ton of at-bats with runners on in very clutch situations. So we're going to have to see how he can produce in these situations. And I think this guy is going to have a lot of opportunity to win and lose baseball games for the Toronto Blue Jays.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. A lot more to come. We're going to talk Alejandro Kirk. He's going to be a big topic of conversation now after this contract extension. There are going to be, debates about this probably this year, even though I don't really see the negative to this one. This is an all positive here for Alejandro Kirk and the Toronto Blue Jays. Carter, we got to talk about it. You've sort of touched on it here and there. We got to talk about it. The complete roster for the Toronto Blue Jays. Shocks, surprises. What does their actual lineup look against right-handed pitching, left-handed pitching? Where is this team going to go? We're going to talk about it all right after this short break. Today's episode brought to you by Just Ingredients. One of my favorite things. Because you know what? I'm always struggling to find a good, clean protein and pre-workout. And you know what? I've decided to give Just Ingredients a try because you know what? They're wanting to come on with us. So I was like, you know what? I'll give them a try. Unbelievable. It is my favorite pre-workout to use. It's clean. It doesn't make me itchy. Some pre-workouts, I get the face itches. The protein is very clean. It doesn't make me feel super full. It just makes me feel ready to go. I get my calories in. I get my protein in. It is fantastic. I really suggest you guys go and try them. When it comes to fueling your body, quality matters. That's why Just Ingredients is changing the game with clean, high-quality products designed to support better health and peak performance. Just Ingredients offers an NSF-certified line of protein powder, electrolytes, pre-workout, and creatine, all rigorously tested to ensure they're free from substances banned by major athletic organizations. Just Ingredients has also partnered with two-time MVP Bryce Harper, who trusts their NSF-certified sports line to fuel his training and recovery as well. I mean, that's a plus. If an athlete is as good as that, is going to, try this stuff out and push for them, who might argue? Visit justingredients.us and use code LOCKEDONMLB for 20% off. And for more wellness tips, follow at Just Ingredients on Instagram.
Today's episode is also sponsored by Monarch Money. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all of your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So you stop managing your money and start building wealth. I know with Braden, he has this online shopping addiction. He can't get enough Toronto Blue Jays hats. If he had Monarch Money, I think they would be able to help him budget. Maybe, spend a little bit less of that paycheck on the Toronto Blue Jays hat, maybe invest it in stocks, just a little bit of more necessity based compared to these spending habits. Monarch Money has the ability, if you do have online shopping addictions, no matter what it is, you have some trouble budgeting, it's the perfect save for you to help you budget for the future. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money and use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONMLB for half off your first year.
All right, Carter. Thanks for bringing up my Blue Jays hats. That was great.
Well, you should go over how many you have. What is it up to? Did it get to 20 yet? You got 19?
You know what? I'm not sure. I'll maybe after this episode for next episode, I'll count how many Blue Jays hats I have. It's got to be close to 20 now. And there's one more I really want to get. So next time, I'm out in the city, I'll have to pick that one up as well. 47s, they do a great job. They make amazing hats. I have a couple new eras as well. A lot of, I don't know. They make great Blue Jays hats, and I just eat them up because I have an issue. You are right. Carter, 2025 roster has been out. We got to talk about it. There was a lot of, I think, surprising ones that maybe me and you didn't necessarily think was going to happen. So let's just get right into it. We're going to go over the infielders and outfielders today. We're going to save the starters, save the bullpen. I mean, the starters are what you think. The bullpen we'll get into later on in another episode, probably tomorrow. But today, Carter, let's go over the actual players on this team. These are everybody that has officially made the 2025 roster. Bichette, Vladimir Guerrero Jr., Alejandro Kirk, Ernie Clement, Davis Schneider, Andrus Jimenez, Will Wagner, Tyler Heineman, your outfielders, or whatever. These are broken down, but, take them where they are. Miles Straw, George Springer, Anthony Santander, Alan Roden, and Nathan Lucas. Carter, the big shocks, obviously, right? Or the question marks around some of these guys had to have been Davis Schneider. What was going to happen with Tyler Heineman? Was it going to be Bethencourt? Those two guys. Then you look at Miles Straw, Alan Roden, Nathan Lucas. These are all guys that we weren't sure if they were going to make this roster. I think, me personally, I had Davis Schneider penciled in. I could not see them sending him back to AAA. Alan Roden looks so good. He probably deserved a spot. I didn't think it was necessarily going to happen. Will Wagner, a guy that I expected to be here. The organization loves him. They wanted him to be on the major league roster. Nathan Lucas was a guy that was out there. I wasn't sure which way it was going to fall, but obviously with the Daulton Varsho injury, they had to do something. So I understand that one. Miles Straw probably would have been a waste of $11 million to send him down to AAA. But I don't know. Where do you stand on all these guys? Where are your biggest question marks? Mine has to be the Miles Straw, Nathan Lucas. Alan Roden's super pumped about him. We'll see how that pans out as well.
With Miles Straw, I think it just goes with what the Toronto Blue Jays have been doing the last few seasons, what they've been prioritizing, and it's that defense. Miles Straw is going to provide that Gold Glove defense, not really going to have any upside offensively, but what do you lose in Daulton Varsho? You're going to lose that defensive presence. Miles Straw makes sense to have that veteran presence there. What didn't make as much sense for me is the 40-man roster and how they controlled that. They added Richard Lovelady again, as we'll get into later on. But you add Alan Roden, you add Lovelady. You add all these pieces. Now you have to remove 3 guys from your 40-man, and you're going to have to DFA a few players, which it seems a little bit interesting how they handled that situation. But Alan Roden being on the team is a massive plus. I didn't think it was going to happen, but I absolutely love the move. This is going to be kind of what we saw from, I think, Spencer Horwitz last season. We saw that the Toronto Blue Jays, what the impact that Spencer Horwitz did have. Why wait going into the season? Why wait for Alan Roden to make that impact? Why not have it on opening day? Why not have it immediately as you go into the season? If he can be that spark plug, if he can provide something at the top of that lineup, even if it is in the middle of that order, because we pretty much know how Bichette, Vladimir, Crow Jr., Santander, we have an idea of the production that we're going to get from them. If you throw Alan Roden in there, if he can start getting hot, if you get, again, production from some other guys, just have some regular seasons from the Alejandro Kirks, Daulton Varsho, the Andrus Jimenez's, then if you have a good season from a guy like Alan Roden, that could be massive for the Toronto Blue Jays offense. So I love how they have Alan Roden in here. Joey Loperfido, I didn't have him in my opening day roster. A lot of people did. I think that one of the reasons for this is that, again, they love Miles Straw there. If they want to give Alan Roden playing time, what's the reason to have Joey Loperfido in there playing every third day, kind of getting thrown in the mix, especially when he didn't have that good of a spring? Send him down to AAA, let him play every single day, get those at-bats. So that makes a lot of sense for me. You go Nathan Lucas there. Will Wagner, kind of a shoe, and David Schneider makes sense for me as well. I think that one he was AAA for me at the start of this spring training, but when he had such a good spring training, he rakes off lefties. You need somebody to hit lefties. Made a lot of sense for David Schneider. So I think the biggest one for me was I was surprised that Alan Roden was there, and I'm also surprised that now they have to make 3 moves for their 40-man to try to figure out the situation going into opening day.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, right? And I think it's all going to depend on. You talked about this, so I got home from work last night, and we had a discussion on this because you were like, well, we should probably go over, because there is such a difference between the lineup versus right-handed pitchers compared to your lineup versus lefties. And I think this is going to come majorly into play for some of these guys, Carter. So let's get into that. I think you have yours, I have mine versus righties and lefties. Let's break it all down, because it makes a difference in your bottom. In your top of your lineup, it's probably going to be fairly similar. Maybe not exactly. I have mine. My top 4 are the exact same versus lefties and righties. It does not change. After that, it definitely does. And there's some guys in here that I don't know where they're going to land. George Springer, I'll say it right now. I don't know where to put him. I'm guessing right now of where I think the Blue Jays are going to put him. Do I think he should maybe even be in this lineup? I don't know. I really don't know, because we just have not seen enough production from George Springer. And if he comes out and shocks the world, awesome. I don't see it there. And maybe we'll get a good month from him. But let's get into it, Carter. Right-handed pitching. I'm going to read mine. If you have an argument, just jump right in. Okay. Number 1, I have Bichette leading off. Then I go Andrus Jimenez at 2.
This is against righties?
This is against righties.
Okay, if you had the Andrus Jimenez spring training that you did have, I think For me, I have that's where they're going to experiment. I think it's going to be their number 2 spot. I agree it's going to be Bichette. I think that was a question going into the season, was the George Springer leading off. I was fully into that. I thought George Springer was going to lead off until I saw how bad he was during spring training. I don't think they're going to do it in good conscience. I don't think they're going to throw him out there opening day and lead him off. I think they're going to have more in the middle of the order. So I don't think it's going to be Andrus Gimenez hitting 2, but I do think that's where they're going to experiment, and it's not going to be the same guy every single day.
Okay, yeah, that's fair. And a lot of this is going to be day to day. I will put that out there right now. This could change. This is just if they're reversing a righty day 1, this is what I got. If they're reversing a lefty day 1, this is what I have.
Should I give you my number 2 for a righty?
Yeah,
Since
yeah, give me your number 2.
I have, if you're going to have this guy up in your lineup, if you're going to prevent him from going to AAA, and he had such a good spring training, it's Alan Roden for me. Throw him right into the fire, put him at number 2. You're between Bichette. For me, it's going to be Vladimir Guerrero Jr. I'm assuming it's going to be Vladdy for you as well. That's why I went out and said it. It's a pretty good spot to be in a lineup. If you have that on-base guy, if you any sort of way he can fight to get on base, you have Vladdy and Santander probably hitting behind you. I think that's a very good spot for a young guy to be in, especially when he has such a hot bat coming in opening day.
Yeah, I like that too. I got no problem with that whatsoever. This was a spot that was very iffy for me, and I was sort of up and down a little bit. But then, of course, Vlad Santander, number 3 and 4. I think there's no discussion. Number 5 for me is Alejandro Kirk. Just with how the way he's been swinging the bat, you're not looking for him to go and smack the ball, out of the park. You just need him to, if you get a double or something from Vlad, you get something from Santander, you get those guys on base, keep the line moving. And I feel like Alejandro Kirk is going to be that guy this year that can keep that line moving. So I got him at number 5. Carter, are you the same?
I don't have Kirk here because I have him a little bit lower for me. I have Will Wagner here because I think he can hit right-handers as well. I didn't have a great spring training, but for me, there's 2 guys I had here. One of them actually was not Alejandro Kirk. It was him and a different guy. But Will Wagner, I think against righties, I have him higher up. Lefties, I don't have him hitting 5, but I think you hope that Will Wagner can catch fire as well early on in the season, kind of continue on what he did later on in 2024. So I have Will Wagner at number 5, but I can definitely see it as being Alejandro Kirk.
I don't have Will Wagner in my starting lineup for righties. I don't have him in the starting lineup whatsoever right now. And I think, again, like I said, this is talking day 1. What's the team you put out there? I just don't think Will Wagner is going to get the opening day nod here. Will he in the season? Maybe. I just don't have him opening day. So that's a little different for me. Number 6, this is where I have Alan Roden come in. I think, hitting right behind Kirk, again, a little bit of a guy that can, smack the ball around. I think Alan Roden here is good. I don't know where the best position to put him is because I'm a little bit uncertain of what he brings to the table. I like at 6. I want him in that starting lineup. That's where I got him, but I also don't hate him at 2 either.
Yeah, he's going to be somewhere in that lineup. I don't think you put Alan Roden on your opening day roster not to play him opening day. This is where I have George Springer. I don't think John Schneider puts him any lower than number 6, maybe puts him at number 5. I could definitely see that happening, a flip-flop of Will Wagner and George Springer. Kind of depends on where they want to go. If they already made the move and they went Alan Roden, they're not really going with the guys that have been there before. That's where I thought they were going to go in this spring training. Had Addison Barger make the team. That didn't happen either. So I think they're going to go all in on this younger guy's approach. That's why I do have Will Wagner there as opposed to a guy like Nathan Lucas or Davis Schneider. But I have George Springer as my number 6 guy. I just don't think with that veteran presence, no matter how bad he has been in spring training, no matter how bad he was last season, I don't think they drop him any lower in this batting order.
Well, I'll tell you, I dropped him lower. He's 7 for me. That's where I have George Springer. Again, same sort of thought, that 6-7 spot. Whatever. I don't want him hitting 5. I really don't want George Springer hitting 5. I think you put him at 6 or 7, and I'm okay with either. Then I go at number 8, Ernie Clement. Just a classic. You know exactly what you're getting out of Ernie Clement. There's no surprises, no shocks. He's going to be that guy. That's probably a spot to lock him in. Is that where you have him as well?
No, I have Ernie Clement at number 9, but I got to go back to my number 7. I have Andrus Gimenez and then Alejandro Kirk because I've seen some quotes from John Schneider. Andrus Gimenez grounds into a ton of double plays. He's a ground ball guy. You have Alejandro Kirk at first base. Probably not going to go too well for the double play scenarios. And say Andrus Gimenez does reach first base. You have Alejandro Kirk moving first to second. Kind of takes away that base running aspect from a guy like Andrus Gimenez. You're going to have Alejandro Kirk in front of him. He's not going to be able to take extra bases. Going to kind of be a station-to-station guy. This way you have Andrus Gimenez hitting first. He can get on base. Maybe you do have a little bit more hit and run. You're stealing for Alejandro Kirk, a guy that you can hope line the ball into the outfield. So that's why I have Andrus Gimenez and then Alejandro Kirk. Maybe they move Andrus Gimenez up a little bit more if they're confident in Andrus Gimenez's play. I'm not sure where they're going to be at. Maybe you do have Andrus Gimenez at 6 and Alejandro Kirk at 7, but I think this is kind of going to be what they try to do early on, is have Gimenez and then Alejandro Kirk in this lineup.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah. Again, I had Jimenez at 2. But again, there's a lot of question marks here because we just don't know how this roster is going to be built. Number 9, this is where you have Nathan Lucas come in. So I think
So
him
is
and
Alan
Roden.
Roden your DH then?
No, Santander is my DH.
So where do you have Lucas playing, like it'd be left field then?
Yeah,
And then
that's
Alan
right.
Roden center field? Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So and that's just the case again. I think you're looking to get Roden's bat in there. You're looking to get again. I don't know why else you bring up Nathan Lucas if it's not to play him against righties. I don't think you play him against lefties. So I don't really. Maybe you do, but I'm a little bit unsure of that. I think this is the spot where he fits in for me. Again, flip-flopping a couple of these guys in. I didn't have Will Wagner in. I had him in. So either way, whatever. Honestly, just whoever they feel more comfortable with opening day is again fine with me.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. Same thing. Like if Will Wagner's not hitting well, it's Nathan Lucas. Alan Roden doesn't hit well, it's Nathan Lucas. Those are the guys that are going to be rotating against those right-handed hitters. I have those 3 as well. So
Yeah.
same sort of list. When we go into the left-handers, I do have Miles Straw making this lineup, being the number 9 guy. That is my center fielder. I have Alan Roden starting opening day though as my center fielder. Still have Santander in left, George Springer in right field. So for me, nothing really changes here other than my number 2 guy. I have David Schneider in my lineup. I think this is where they experiment. I don't love David Schneider at 2. I think it's a little bit too bold of a jump, but I just don't have anyone else to put here. I don't think you put Andrus Gimenez again at that number 2 spot against lefties. So maybe this is a scenario where they throw George Springer back the leadoff spot, but I don't think you put him leadoff one day just to move him the next. I think it might be a Bichette, Vladdy, Santander. This is where I can see a lot of mixing and matching. But for mine, I threw David Schneider at my 2nd spot because I think that's where they're going to be doing a lot of experimenting, especially early on in the season.
Yeah, and I understand the David Schneider thought of all that because he's in my lineup versus lefties. Of course he is. I just don't have him number 2. As much as it does get on base and he does draw walks and he can smack the ball around, you love to see that. I just don't know, again, if you go right back to David Schneider at 2 after seeing the struggles he had last year. Again, you saw great things in the spring. I just don't know if you go that high with him right off the bat. But again, okay with that. This 2 positions very strange for this team right now. I still have Andrus Gimenez there personally, but again, I'm good with it sort of either way. As long as certain guys get in, I want David Schneider against lefties. So as long as he's in the lineup, I'm okay with that. I have Bichette, Andrus Gimenez. I'm guessing you have Vlad and Santander or however the mix of them. I still have Alejandro Kirk at 5 here.
Yeah, see, I went away from that again. I went Springer here at 5 against lefties. Again, I just don't think they're going to drop him too far in the order, especially early on. I think the leash is way shorter throughout the season, and you might see George Springer not even become an everyday player, hopefully. But it's hard for Rodgers to justify the $25 million sitting on the bench if you're George Springer. So I think they're really going to try to throw him in a lot of different scenarios. Other than that, for me, it's based pretty much off of my right-handed lineup. So I'm just going to fire off my left-handed lineup. You can fire off yours, and the people I think will kind of get it from there. So against lefties, I have Bichette, shortstop, Davis left field, Vladdy first base, Anthony Santander's DH as my number 4, Springer number 5, right field, Andrus Gimenez number 6, second base, Alejandro Kirk number 7, catcher, Ernie Clement as number 8 as third base, and then I do have Miles Straw as my center fielder as number 9.
Yeah, it's pretty close. It's pretty similar. Bichette, shortstop, Andrus Gimenez, second base, Vlad at first, Santander, DH, Alejandro Kirk catching, David Schneider in left, George Springer in right, Ernie Clement at 3, and then Miles Straw in center. That's my lineup versus lefties. Again, the David Schneider of it all, I want it. This is one guy I want to succeed. I want to see succeed probably more than anybody on this team. I absolutely love the guy. That's why I have his jersey or jerseys. He's my favorite player on the Blue Jays. I am praying for a good season from him, but we'll have to wait and see. And I really don't think we're going to see him until there is a lefty in. So, well, it's going to be interesting. That's your opening day lineup from both of our perspectives. I feel like everybody is going to have slightly different ones. If you have a crazy take or where you think guys should play, leave a comment. We want to see them because we want to see where your guys' heads at are about this too, because we're not the smartest guys in the room. We'll come out and say that. we don't know exactly how this should be run as well. So
Well, and
give us your
also
thing.
another thing I want to add is Daulton Varsho is coming back in
Yeah.
about 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So I think they're going to really try to experiment here. Maybe they're going to try having another lefty that's in the lineup every single day. They'll try to experiment and just fumble with the lineup to figure out what can work. Again, it depends on who's hot as well. Alan Roden continues to stay hot. I think he's just in the lineup against regs and lefties. They probably hit him at number 2. They hit him at number 7. Wherever they do have him in the lineup, he's going to be hitting if they're playing good. With the Toronto Blue Jays, what we always kind of go back to on this podcast, that you play the hot hand, whoever is playing well at that time, because baseball is so streaky, just continue to throw them into the lineup, especially early on the season where these games do matter a lot. Tough road ahead for the Blue Jays, as we'll get into sometime this week. The rough schedule the Toronto Blue Jays do have throughout the first month, but it's going to be a trial and error period for the Toronto Blue Jays early on in the season.
Yeah, Carter, you know what? We're gonna take a quick break. We're gonna come back. We want to get into where guys landed fantasy-wise. So you guys, if you have drafts coming up, we have another one tonight of this podcast. We have one tonight. So we want to see where the Blue Jays guys landed. We want to go over some of your guys' teams for those of you who joined up and are participating in the Locked On Blue Jays Fantasy League this year. And what me and Carter's team looked at, because it's sort of crazy. And then I got to do a little bit of bragging on the other side of this break. Because if you've been following me on Twitter, you will see something. I'm going to save it for after the break. We'll be right back. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You guys know how much I love FanDuel. I just won a crazy bet on March Madness, and it was so much fun. FanDuel is giving you the chance to get in on the action like never before because it is March Madness. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That's $200 extra bucks to use on everything from buzzer beaters to Cinderella stories and even who's cutting down the nets. I hit a 8-leg parlay on the men's side of March Madness. Unbelievable. Didn't miss. The winnings kept coming in. And my brother actually won on March Madness as well, got $200 in bonus bets, is now using that for the rest of the tournament. So there you guys go. You can use that if you want to. So visit FanDuel.com and get in on the college hoops action all tournament long. Okay, it's time for me to do a little bit of bragging here. Time for me to brag about being number one as a baseball guy who knows absolutely squat about NCAA basketball. On the men's side of bracket in Locked On, I am currently number one. Currently number one. The women's side, I was number 3, but yesterday I didn't go well. I dropped heavily. I'm going to look it up right now because I think it dropped right off a cliff. Oh, no, I'm 6th. I'm 6th in the women's. So there you go. 1st in the men's, 6th in the women's. We'll see how it goes. I got Florida going all the way for those of you that follow. It should be fun. I'll keep you guys updated on my Twitter as well because Locked On posts like whoever's in first after each round. So hopefully I can stay there. My ego is crazy right now because I did win money and I'm still first in Locked On. Knock on wood because I feel like it's all going to come crashing down on me.
Well, and I saw this graphic that I think this year there's been a lot less upsets than there typically is. Again, I'm not a big March Madness guy either. I didn't even put in a bracket because I know nothing about March Madness. But I think there's it's in the quintillionths your likelihood to get a perfect bracket in March Madness. But I did see a graphic where I think there's 3 brackets that are still perfect right now. I think they're 40 for 40. I think the record was 48. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but I'm pretty sure that's what I saw was 48. So after this next round of games, if there still is a perfect bracket, that is the closest we've seen to a perfect bracket in history. So, yeah, congratulations to you for the bracket. Might as well just, go buy a lottery ticket as well while we're at it, because I don't think I've seen you watch a single game of March Madness ever. Maybe, there probably was a few, from time to time. You're definitely not a big basketball guy as you're so involved in hockey, other sports as well. I don't think you have enough time to, get involved in college basketball.
No, I don't. I watch almost every Jets game. I watch probably 140 Blue Jays games, give or take. I watch every single Winnipeg Blue Bombers game. I watch a lot of NFL football now, and I don't really have time to fit in college basketball. But I do watch a little bit here and there. I go for Purdue. They're the one I follow in most college stuff. So I cheer for Purdue. They're doing good. They're doing good. They just got away with one, so I'm hoping that they can continue on. I have them going to the Final Four, which might be a bit of a hot take, but we'll see what happens. Carter, let's get into it. Fantasy-wise, I want to go over our teams, but first, where did the Toronto Blue Jays rank in terms of our fantasy draft? 20-team draft, insanely large. The biggest fantasy draft I've ever been a part of.
Yeah, of course, we have to start with the March Madness so you can relive the glory days of you know, posting people up at 160 pounds soaking wet back in the day.
I was a big man back in the day.
But we'll dive right into the fantasy league that we were in, 20-person league, as Braden said. So, as we know, there is a 26-man roster in the MLB. So, you have 26 players that make your major league roster. Again, it is a 20-man league, but I asked you this off camera because I just want to see if you'd be even in the right realm. I asked out of the 26 players how many were drafted. You guessed 18. So I was going to do this on the podcast, but it didn't really work out. It was 18 of the 26 players on the Toronto Blue Jays were drafted. It's absolutely insane. We only had 2 relief pitchers. So the only ones that weren't drafted, there was no Nathan Lucas. There was no Davis Schneider. And there was one more in there that I got to find it on my list. But there was a ton of Toronto Blue Jays drafted.
Did Alan Roden go?
Tyler Heideman, Alan Roden did go. Tyler Heideman was the other one that did not go in this fantasy draft. So I'm just I have the top 100 that the ones that went in the top 100 for the Toronto Blue Jays. The rest of them I'm just going to list off where they kind of went. But the first Blue Jay, obviously Vladimir Guerrero Jr. goes at number 6. This is at Jose Ramirez for number 5, Tyree Skubal at number 7. For me, I don't know. Like it's hard not to bet on your boy, but at number 6 in fantasy, it's a little bit different than obviously regular baseball when Vladdy's not going to steal a ton of bases. You got to bet on a pretty good offensive season from Vladimir Guerrero Jr., but I'm not going to hate on Vladdy at number 6.
No, you know what? If I'm in that realm, maybe I'm pulling the trigger on him too. It's early. I think he probably is looking more in the 8 to 10 range. But I like that more than the teams that went starting pitchers in the first round. I thought that was insane, especially in the top 10. Crazy to me, but everybody's got their way of working things.
Yeah, I mean, you got to build that roster. You know, you see Tyler Skubal, Paul Skeens on the board. Definitely tough to go away from those guys early on. Next, Toronto Blue Jays, Anthony Santander at 25. Ellie De La Cruz drops to 24. I was very surprised about that. Thought he would have went a little bit earlier. But the app had him ranked at like 70. So I think a lot of people were missing him early on. So that was a steal that I was hoping to get somehow at 38. Didn't end up doing that. But that was between Ellie and your pick, actually, of Bryce Harper at 26. Were you upset that you missed out on Anthony Santander? Or where were you expecting him to fall?
No. If I can get Trey Turner and then go back to back, somehow getting Bryce Harper in the second round, I will take that a million times out of a million. I don't like Bryce Harper. I've said that. As a player, makes me upset, makes me mad. But fantasy-wise, Trey Turner and Bryce Harper as a duo, tough to beat.
Yeah, you'll take that. You'll take the Philly guys definitely on your squad. I would have expected Santander to go a little bit later than he did, but it's Toronto Blue Jays podcast fantasy draft, so it's kind of expected here. Didn't have a Blue Jay for a while. We had Bichette go at 83. I picked Bailey Ober at 82, so did have an opportunity to draft Bichette. I think the pick before I went O'Neill Cruz just because of the stealing upside you get from O'Neill as well. Bichette going this late, though, I mean, I think that's some value that you wouldn't have gotten previously based off of this season. Vinny Pasquantino going at 84. So I think you got a lot of value drafting Bichette at 83 here.
Yeah, to be honest with you, when that round was coming back to me, I think it would have been the following round. That was going to be my plan. I was going to go and look for Bo because I didn't have a shortstop. No, I did. I had Trey Turner, but I was going to take Bo as well because I originally thought the DH position could be anybody. Apparently, I'm wrong. Apparently, it has to be a DH. So my bad for whoever didn't take DHs. There aren't that many good DHs. So sorry, my bad. I messed that one up. Can't fix it. So here we are.
Yeah, so I noticed that fairly early on because I was expecting to go Bobby Witt the entire time. I got lucky. I had number 2 pick. I went with Aaron Judge as the DH as well. But in my head, I had Bobby Witt pick because that was my plan going into the entire draft until I found that out. Ended up going 3 outfielders to start. That was a little bit bold on my part. Still liked how my team shaped out, but that DH spot definitely kind of went into my head a little bit. That Aaron Judge obviously fits in as the DH. That's why this fits into the story. But a little bit of an interesting perk to the fantasy league. So, yes, hopefully too many people didn't get screwed over by that. I was hoping that, Braden would have. I don't think he did. I think it worked out for him. So, hopefully that didn't mess you up too bad.
I got Mitch Garver as my DH, the last pick in the draft.
Yeah, that's not exactly what you want to be trying out there as your DH. And it is a 20-man league, but still. I'll kind of rifle through them a little bit quicker here. Rounding out the top 100, you had Kevin Gausman at 89, Christian Yelich at 88, CJ Abrams at 90. So that's kind of where he fell. Just overall thoughts, Kevin Gausman going there?
Yeah, that's okay. I think he could have went earlier. He could have went later. Um, I don't know. Pitchers were tough because there was only 3 starting pitchers, 2 bullpen guys, a max of 5 pitchers. So you really, especially with this many people in a draft, you really have to be careful of where you're picking guys.
Yeah, because I ended up having a second baseman where I just did not have a lot of options. There's probably a couple positions people had that you were really starting to get towards the bottom of the barrel. Still, obviously, MLB players, they're good at what they do, but for fantasy, not exactly what you're looking for. I'm okay with Kevin Gausman here. There's some upside there. Obviously, Toronto Blue Jays, nice to have a Blue Jay on your team. I think both of us actually do not have any Toronto Blue Jays on our rosters, which a little bit unfortunate. I typically don't have players from my favorite team on my fantasy rosters. I try to take the bias out of it. Probably could have drafted Bichette in theory at 82 when I was there, but just drafted O'Neill Cruz. That was a decision I was thinking of at the time. We'll see how that does pan out for me. Hopefully, didn't get bit in the butt there. Would have been fun to watch Bichette throughout the season. It's going to be fun anyway. Jeff Hoffman coming in at 89. You draft Cal Raleigh right before Jeff Hoffman goes at 95. Riley Green goes at 97. This, okay, same thing. I'm okay with it. Jeff Hoffman. Hopefully, the Jays are in a lot of save situations where this can work out for you. So, again, you're hoping the Toronto Blue Jays are good in this situation with Jeff Hoffman. You can really maximize his potential, especially fantasy-wise.
Yeah, I like him going there. You know, the relievers or closers or whatever you want to call it. That position was hard to know where to pick guys. Like I went Andres Munoz at a certain time, and even that I thought was like I need to grab him here because I needed an elite guy. And then I actually got Jordan Romano later, and he might be closing some games for the Phillies. So again, we'll see how that plays out. Ex Blue Jay. Again, wish nothing but the best for him. Canadian, gotta love it. I just went, thought, whatever. We'll get him.
Yeah, might as well. You got to load up on those, obviously, back end guys. But yeah, a little bit interesting this year with a 20-man league. I've never done a 20-man league. Definitely tough to predict where players are going to go, which positions. Obviously, for example, there's not as many catchers as there's going to be outfielders. So you really got to prioritize where you're picking specific position groups. These ones I'm going to kind of rifle through. There's only really 2 that I want to go over. Alejandro Kirk, 127. Makes sense to me. Nothing I really want to go into there. Jose Berrios, 141. Bowden Francis, 147. I thought this one was interesting because you can slot Bowden Francis as a relief pitcher. Obviously, the way it's working out right now, Bowden Francis should be a starting pitcher for the Toronto Blue Jays. If things go well, if you get second half Bowden Francis in fantasy as a relief pitcher, that could work really out for whoever, or will out really well for whoever got Bowden Francis there at 147.
Yeah, and one thing I want to mention too is you guys are willing or are able to make trades. So check those fairly consistently. Guys might be sending them. I might send you guys a couple. You know, I need to get somebody better than Mitch Garver as my DH. So if any of you want to hit me up with a trade, I'm open and ready for it. So no, a lot of interesting stuff there, Carter. I know you want to go over the rest of them too, and we are running a little bit long, so I'll let you just rifle the rest of them off.
Yeah, we have Andrus Gimenez at 154, George Springer 163. I picked JT Realmuto at 162. Missed my opportunity for George Springer. I think
Dang.
George Springer 163. You're really hoping that George Springer bounces back. Maybe it does work out, and you're going to think that you're going to look really smart if it does work out for you. I hope it does. Obviously, I hope everyone on this list does hit, and I hope that they are better than expected. But we'll have to see. I think that just as a non-biased MLB fan, might be a little bit bold for George Springer, but hey, hopefully he does have a bounce back season here. Chris Bassitt 206, Varsho at 216. Max Scherzer at 254. It's a lot of picks, obviously, in this draft. Ernie Clement at 305. This is where you start getting some that are like surprising, that are kind of popping off the board. I was said I was going to pick Alan Roden last round. Somebody took Alan Roden here at 336. Again, could work out at this point in the draft. You're kind of looking for upside anyway. Don't really hate that. Chad Green, 337. I thought Yimi Garcia would go before Chad Green, so that was a little bit interesting to me. How you had Chad Green go here. Will Wagner, 352. Again, I'm okay with this. Miles Straw, 377, 4th last picked in the draft. I get that, but Miles Straw has, unless he's playing every single day for the Toronto Blue Jays, stealing bases, you're not going to get a lot of them from the offensive side of the ball. Maybe a little bit of a troll pick here, but I thought it was pretty funny to see Miles Straw go in this draft.
I'm shocked that somebody picks Miles Straw and doesn't go and pick Davis Schneider. Like, you get the upside of the home run ball, maybe a little bit more with Davis Schneider. Again, both picks probably going to be whatevers unless Davis Schneider goes back on an absolute heater. But yeah, either way, it's just hilarious to see where these guys go. It should be a really fun year for those of you who join the fantasy league. We'll update you guys. It's more of a normal league. It's a 10-man league, what we are drafting tonight. So we'll update you guys a little bit as well on more of a normal draft and where guys fall, because I know a lot of drafts are Wednesday nights. So Wednesday morning. You guys will be able to wake up. We'll do a little bit of an extra in this like third segment as well on where guys ended up in that draft and more of a realistic one.
Yeah, it's fantasy time of year. I'm excited because our NHL fantasy just finished. Me and Braden both did avoid toilet bowl demise. He has the second best odds in the draft lottery. I'm gonna have the third best odds. We're both expecting to compete again for a fantasy championship next season. So baseball's back. You have some fantasy back. I'm a big fantasy guy, as you guys know from the podcast. Braden getting more and more immersed in fantasy as well. He's a bigger NHL fantasy guy than I am. I'm probably way bigger into fantasy football. But again, fantasy is always fun, gets you more involved, especially now we have a 20-man league. Will be interesting to see some of the guys, especially in the AL, like the guys that hit 7, 8, 9 in those lineups. A little bit harder to see as a Toronto Blue Jays fan when we're watching those games. Not a lot of time to watch other teams play if they're not playing the Jays. Obviously in the MLB, 162 games, quite a bit of games for baseball. But it will be fun to see, get to know some of these players that you might not know a lot about, especially maybe more of some sleeper picks that you can use down the road in your like 10-man, 12-man leagues. So obviously a lot of fun information that you can learn there. And then just having baseball back is going to be so awesome. Just looking forward to the weekend. If you're hanging out with your friends, you're going out for dinner. Always nice to look up and see the Toronto Blue Jays boys playing up there on the TV on a Friday night, Saturday night, and just as we progress through summer.
Yeah, so just so you guys know, before we kick out of here, live stream is on Thursday at opening pitch. Carter will get that going. I will join in, and then I'll be in for the back half of it. We'll go over stuff. If it really starts to die off and there's not really a ton going on, we can end it early. We don't have to go throughout the whole game, but we'll start it off, really just get into it. There will be TikTok shorts, reels, all that will come out post game. We will have those available for you guys throughout almost every game. That's going to be our goal, is to get those out, which is a little game recap. Hey, what happened? Who was good? Who wasn't? Big plays, injuries if stuff come out. All that will be in those TikToks. And of course, we will go more in depth on everything on the podcast the next day, or if there are games over the weekend. That Monday episode is always huge for what happened, storylines, everything coming out of the weekend. So as always, we want to thank you guys so much for listening. Make sure you guys hit that subscribe button if you are still here, and we will talk to you guys tomorrow.